You are so much more than you've ever thought you were capable of. So much more. Whatever messy middle, right? And I love this conversation, Sandy, because that's what you're doing is you're normalizing the messy middle, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all go through the muck in life. There's always seasons of grossness. If we can find that teeny tiny little tiniest shimmer of light of what's ahead of us and lock onto that, that will guide you through and carry you through.
Welcome back to Elevate Within. I'm your host, Sandy Davis. Elevate Within is for the high-achieving women in the messy middle, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. This is a space for honest conversations about reinvention, resilience, healing, leadership, and what it really takes to rebuild from the inside out. Each week, I'm joined by my co-host, Claudia Cuevas, licensed marriage and family therapist, as we explore the stories, lessons, and emotional realities behind transformation. Because reinvention isn't just about changing our circumstances. It's about understanding yourself. It's about healing. It's about letting go of who you thought you had to be so you can become who you were always meant to be. Whether you're navigating burnout, grief, identity shifts, career transitions, entrepreneurships, caregiving, or simply asking yourself, what's next? You are not alone. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and join us at the table. This is Elevate Within. When exploring the architecture of reinvention, one of the biggest beliefs many of us carry is that we have to figure everything out on our own. That strength means carrying it all. That asking for help is weakness. And that if life falls apart, it's our job to put the pieces back together by ourselves. But what if healing was never meant to happen alone? Today's guest knows that journey well. I'm honored to introduce Jennifer Jayne. Jennifer is a sustainable growth strategist and the founder of the Fempreneur Collective, a thriving community built to help women entrepreneurs grow through connection, accountability, and authentic support. After navigating a divorce, health challenges, natural disasters, relocation, and rebuilding her life more than once, Jennifer discovered something many women learn the hard way. Success may be built through hard work, but healing, resilience, and lasting growth are often built through community. Today, we're talking about reinvention, recovery, entrepreneurship, belonging, and why meaningful relationships may be one of the most overlooked ingredients in both life and business. Jennifer, welcome to Elevate Within.
Thank you for having me, Sandy. I am thrilled to be here.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited to be here. It's been a busy couple weeks, but it's nice to sit down and have a real conversation about real important things.
Absolutely, and I'm so happy that you're here with us today.
Thank you.
So, before we talk about the Fempreneur Collective, I'd
Mhm.
love for you to start with your story and what
Yeah.
were some of the experiences that shaped the woman that you are today.
Okay, I'm gonna give you the fast version, and then we'll back it up, and we'll talk about some of it. So, in 2010, I'm Canadian. In 2010, I met an American who lived in Texas. Got swept off my feet with the Southern drawl and the old world charm, and had a whirlwind romance and moved to Texas 6 months after meeting him. I had nothing to do because I was
6
Canadian.
months.
Yeah, 6 months.
Okay.
So it was very he proposed 2 weeks after meeting. And I was very much in love with the idea of love, which it's
Yep.
part of part of what the result of all this was. But
Women will get it.
2010 met him, ran off to Texas essentially, had nothing to do, so I started a lifestyle blog because I had to fill my days with something. lifestyle blog became VA work became social media management became an agency became a six-figure business. I poured my heart and soul into it, and in 2018 retired him, which then illuminated this whole thing. Oh, wait, he's kind of an asshole. If I can say that on your
Yeah,
show,
you can.
he's an asshole. He was a narcissist. But when you are married to someone who is gone, he was a long haul trucker. So he was gone 5 and 6 weeks at a time. Everything could be about him for 3 or 4 days. And then he'd go back on the road. We'd talk once or twice a day. And I was essentially, I used to joke that I was like 3/4 single, because I had the perks of being a wife, but no husband to like look after, and I literally just lived my life as if I was single the rest of the time.
Mm,
Um, but you can be married to a narcissist for decades if they're only home 4 or 5 days at a time,
right.
because everything can be about them, and they can get what they need, and then they go back about what their business is, and you do your business. But when he came home full time, things went downhill quickly. And so I was navigating this like, oh, what is happening? Who are you? Why are you treating me like this kind of energy, on top of working 80 to 100 hours a week on my business because it was thriving and successful. I
Mhm.
had hit six. I made a decision in August of 2017 that I wanted to retire him and hit six figures for the year, and I did it in 3 months.
Good for
So
you. Good
yeah,
for
so instead
you.
of it taking 6 months, I did it in 3. Um, and then I, like, hit this milestone, and I was like, "Yeah, I retired my husband," and everyone was like, "That's so cool, how did you do it?" And I was having this conversation, but on the back end was like, "But I kinda hate him. I kinda hate that he's here. I kind of wish I hadn't done this," right? It's like, I thought that was the thing I was supposed to do. And so I was like, "Well, if this isn't making me happy, what is gonna make me happy? What is
Mhm.
gonna be the thing?" And so I started, like, doing this, like, deeper level introspection, like just pulling apart at the seams of my own awareness and reality and subconscious of like, what do I want? Like, I did the thing I was told that was like the thing I'm supposed to do as an entrepreneur, right? Like, you
Yep.
retire your husband, then you buy a beach house and you go work on the beach somewhere with your laptop. I don't like sand, so that one didn't really resonate with me. But that was what I was told, right? Like in 2017, 2018, the height of female entrepreneur hustle culture was just go get it, make $100,000 a year, retire your husband, be the boss babe, go be the boss babe. And it didn't feel good. Didn't feel good. I was navigating health challenges. I've dealt with a chronic health challenge for almost 30 years now. Um, was navigating like this journey of self discovery and trying to figure out what the heck was going on in my psyche, and also just deeply miserable. And one day a friend asked me, "Are you happy?"
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, I'm happy." She's like, "No, like, Jennifer, like, are you actually happy?" She's like, "Think about it for a second." And so I thought about it for a second and I was like, "Well, I'm not unhappy." And she goes, "What kind of shitty answer is that?"
Mhm.
This is my no bullshit friend. But that's not an answer, Jennifer. There is no gray zone of happiness. You can be happy or you are unhappy. There's no like middle mixy ground where you don't have a definition, right? Like
Right.
it's a yes or no question. And so I was like, yeah, well, yeah, then I'm happy, right? Like it's fine. I'm happy. And she's like, I'm gonna let you sit with that one for a minute. And I was like, fine. And so I was sitting there and reflecting on it. And it was that question in the back of your mind that won't go away. That little wiggly thing in the back of your head that just digs deeper and deeper and deeper. The straw that breaks the camel's back, if you will. And I couldn't stop thinking about, well, if I'm not happy, what am I? So it was this question that I couldn't get out of my head. I couldn't stop no matter what I was doing. If I'm not happy, what am I? And I realized, okay, well, I'm not happy. That was the first step. In fact, I'm quite unhappy. I might actually be miserable. No, yep, uh, miserable. That sounds about
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And I had this like moment of like, oh shit, what have I done with my life? Like, what did I do to myself? Because I recognized that I made my own series of choices. Yes, there were circumstances that were outside of my control, but I continued to stay and I continued to pursue things, and as responsible for my own choices as anyone else. Um, and I had this fork in the road moment where I had to decide. The two paths before me were, this is as good as it gets, and this is the reality, and you can live with this and you can deal with it, but that is the intentional choice you're making, and that's it. Or you can figure out how to make it different and make it better and leave and move forward and choose something else. And it will be impossibly hard. And you're going to probably hate a lot of it, but then it has the potential to be better and you can stop being miserable. And you have the opportunity to do all the things you want to do. Because inside of what I was dealing with, I recognized there was no opportunity for me to hit my goals much far. Like the goals couldn't grow any bigger than they were. There was no opportunity for me to really pursue my passions. There wasn't an opportunity for me to really travel and do just the life experiences that I wanted to have as someone like in their early 30s. And I was
So
like, I was not okay with that.
you were in your early 30s having this kumbaya moment,
Yeah.
asking
Well,
yourself,
mid 30s, mid
mid
30s. I was
30s.
35 when all this started. Yeah.
But still, there's some women that don't even go down that rabbit hole to
Yeah.
ask themselves, like, am I really happy or am I not? So
Yeah.
kudos to you for, having that moment.
Thank you. Yeah. It was tough. It was tough. Around the time I decided that I was unhappy, that I probably needed to do something about it, and I needed an exit plan, we got hit by COVID, right? So that was like
Mm,
February, March 2020. I
yep.
lived in Texas. COVID was loosely a thing there. Um, it's Texas,
Yeah, loosely.
right?
No, you
So
did it
like,
right.
yeah, loosely a thing. It had impact, but the biggest impact was it directly affected my ability to leave.
Right.
Because my only option was to go back home to Canada. Like, I didn't have any family in America. I didn't have like, I had a few friends, but, like, only kind of sort of passing acquaintances. And then that one friend who's a true friend and asked me that hard question, who also ended up being the person who drove me across the country when I did leave. But I ended up being stuck in Texas for an extra 8 months because of the
The,
borders were closed. What
the
are the logistics
lockdown.
of this? My passport was expired. So how do I like cross the border? Trying to figure out all this stuff. I had 2 dogs. I couldn't imagine leaving them. Um, and then like still trying to run the business, trying to figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life and what my path forward was. And it took me 8 months. In the middle of that, he hit the height of his chaotic narcissism, and then we also got hit by a tornado, right? So,
A-
COVID,
And
narcissism,
eight
tornado, bing, bang,
months,
bop.
you guys are stuck in the house together.
Yeah, yeah,
How did that
yeah.
go?
It was tough. It was really tough, and honestly, I think being stuck in the house together probably is some of what pushed me to the, "Yeah, no, you're miserable," because just it was like the little microaggressions, like the little snide comments, and he had this habit of walking behind me and flicking his cigarette at my hair, and I had really, really long hair at the time, and he'd done it for years, and I'd never really, like, thought like, I it was
Never
I
corrected
grew
him to be like,
I
don't ever
I
do
sh
that again.
I did, but I didn't do it with any sort of, like, authority, right? Because I was, like, just a girl. I'm just a girl, right? Like, and he was this Texas dude. But I didn't have any sense of my own autonomy, really. Like, I was just happy to be in Texas and happy to be married and like in love with love and just really glossing over all of the problems because I didn't want to rock my own boat.
Mm.
I really didn't. And looking back, it was a conscious and subconscious choice at the same time. Like I consciously avoided certain behavior, like addressing certain behaviors and certain patterns because I knew the fallout would possibly mean I would leave. And I didn't want to. I liked what I was building. And I didn't think it was possible for me to do it back in Canada at this point of life I was at. And so I stayed. I chose that. I chose that for myself. But the second I made the decision that that's not what I'm choosing anymore, right? Like I moved heaven and hell to figure out the exit strategy. And we played what I call the Great Pass the Game Jennifer of 2020 edition. And a friend picked me up. A local friend picked me up from my house. We shoved as much stuff as we could in her car. She drove me to Dallas. An acquaintance of a friend drove me from Dallas to Amarillo. And then my good friend picked me up in Amarillo and we went to her house in Colorado, stayed there for a week. And then she drove me the rest of the way to the Canadian border. And funnily enough, at the Canadian border, they're like, "Oh yeah, come on in. All your Canadian IDs expired. No biggie. But you, American who has valid ID, you have 45 minutes of paperwork to fill out because it's COVID and we're in no man's land and it was
Shout
all
out to Canada.
right. It was all like crazy bureaucracy. So she was stuck there filling out like 45 minutes of paperwork and I was on my way to my mom's basement. But I only was able to get out because I had people asking me questions, hard questions, and not accepting the simplified, glossy
What were
answer.
some of the hard questions?
Like, "Are you happy? Because I would be like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm building something here." And then the question would be like, "Well, what are you actually building?" Because to me, it looks like a house of cards,
Mhm,
right? It's a house of cards. You think you have something. He has all the power. With one phone call, one decision, he can wipe everything you've built away. Um, See, because he had all of the power. I now know what I was experiencing was domestic violence at its highest form without the violence piece of
mhm.
it, the physical violence.
Yeah.
I was dealing with financial abuse, medical abuse, verbal and emotional abuse, obviously narcissistic abuse. I didn't have access to my own ID. I didn't have access to healthcare. I didn't have access to the money I was making. It was my money. I made
Mhm.
$100,000 in 2016, and I didn't have a penny of it to show beyond the bills for the business. Um, and and I was dealing with all of that and thinking that's what marriage was supposed to be. That's what that's what my marriage just was. That's the relationship I had, and I was blessed to have a relationship and have a man who cared for me because of all of these things I had built up in my head. Boy, was I wrong. Um,
Question
but
for you.
yeah.
Was he home when your friends were like, "Hey, we're gonna help you pack up and get you across the border"?
Yes and no. So I did a couple of things to help covertly because he had a history of self-harm if things didn't go his way, and I didn't want to deal with that. I really didn't wanna deal with that. I didn't want him to hurt himself, but I also didn't want to deal with the emotional manipulation and the guilt that could potentially come from that, because that would have kept me there. Um, a couple of things kind of happened is I got an office outside of the house because it was just so impossible to work and get anything done, and I justified it by finding, like, a cheap little office for, like, $400 a month where I could just go and work but then I get to come home and be home, right? Like, I can
Mm,
come home and be home, and he's like, "Okay." So he kind of finally agreed to that, and so the office became my staging ground. But I got the office before I recognized I needed to leave. So it was kind of like the universe being like, "We're gonna push this step
mhm.
out a little bit before you have the realization of what's happening." So I had the office. I just started taking stuff to the office. Like every day I would leave with a big bag and come home with an empty bag. And it was the staging ground for all the things I wanted to take with me and not leave behind. Which was still not nearly enough because I had 10 years of a life there and
Right,
fabric and hobbies, and
right.
I ended up not being able to take my dogs. Ultimately, I had to leave them behind, which was devastating, but it was the right choice because I couldn't stay either. Um, but the office became a staging ground. I had a personal assistant helping me part-time at the time, so she would run stuff to her storage so that it didn't look like there was too much stuff at the right, like, and I was
Right.
overthinking and stressed and anxious about everything and, like, terrified of if he found out too soon. So, like, I was making mountains out of molehills, but when you're in the nitty-gritty of escaping abuse, every molehill has the potential to be your downfall, right? Like,
Yep.
sure, it's a mountain out of a molehill, but that molehill could be the thing that trips you and sends you into oblivion. Um, and so I was being exceedingly cautious and very careful and just practically dying of anxiety. But I was making very intentional strategic moves, and I had people cheering me on and people holding me accountable lovingly with the utmost of grace, asking me those hard questions to keep me moving forward because they loved me and believed in me to the point that they were not willing to let me slide back because it would
Mhm.
be safer and more comfortable. And I did ask for that to some like, I did say, like, "Don't let me mess this up. Like, I have to get out of here. Don't let me change my mind." And there were days where I was like, "Let me change my mind, please. This is too hard. Like, this is I don't
Yeah.
wanna deal with this anymore." Because it was exhausting and impossible and overwhelming and all of the things, right? Like, all of the negative things. But once I made it to Amarillo, right? Like, once I hit that border of Texas and got to a place I'd never been before. I hit Amarillo, and then we were crossing into Colorado, and I had never been to Colorado before. I hit the mountains, and I was like, "This is what peace feels like."
Mm.
Partly it was the mountains, partly for me, it was being somewhere he hadn't touched in my life, right? But also just was like, it's about a 6-hour drive from where I live to Amarillo. It took me those 6 hours to just, like, let the worst of the pressure and this, like, I sobbed. I sobbed in the car, and then I passed out and slept for about 3.5 hours. And when I woke up, it was just like, "I'm free. I'm
Yeah.
free. Holy shit, I did it," right? And it was like this immense weight lifting off, the first stage of the weight. I didn't feel it entirely until I got back to Canada, but just being able to, like, breathe and not have him hovering or demanding things or all the little comments. I look back now and I recognize that I went to Texas, very vibrant. I was 27. I was
Mhm.
vibrant and happy and in love and in love with him and in love with the idea of building a life with him. And then I experienced death by a thousand cuts over
Mm.
the course of a decade, right? The little chips that narcissists take away, those little slices they peel at your soul, the undermining of who you are, the isolation. And people look at women coming out of narcissistic relationships and they're like, "How do you let that happen? How did that man get the best of you? How did you let yourself experience this abuse?" And there is no letting,
There's
right?
narcissist.
Yeah, there is just narcissist. And it is covert, and it is secretive, and it is manipulative as hell, and it is death by a thousand cuts.
Mhm.
And every day they take just the thinnest little paper slice thin shred of your soul. Every day.
Was he trying to call you when he realized you were missing and you were on the road?
No. So what ended up happening, my plan was I had made up this story about needing to go to Dallas for work. And he was on board with that. He didn't like when I left, but I had done it a few times just to get away and to have some peace. And to do work. I legitimately was going to Dallas for work. But I had made up this thing about I needed to go meet with a client. I was going to Dallas for 4 days. I needed to take, a couple of things, blah, blah, blah. And so he was prepared for me to leave that day, but he started throwing a fit about money at about 2 AM because I was like like I'd been packing and was like pretending like I had to take this stuff to this thing that I was doing in Dallas. And at 2 AM, he was throwing a fit about money. And I made a comment. I'm like, well, maybe you should get a job.
Mm.
And that probably was not my smartest move, but I was so frustrated, and I
Right.
was so tired of the bullshit. And and finally I just snapped, and I'm like, "You know what? I'm not actually going to Dallas." And he stopped, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to Dallas. I'm going to Canada. I'm leaving you. I'm over this. I'm so done with this bullshit." And we fought for 3 hours. And he did self-harm, which is what I had been trying to avoid. But
Mhm.
I hit a point where, like, I didn't I didn't I'm gonna say I didn't care, but it's not because I didn't care about him, because there's still a part of me that cares about him and wants him to just be healthy and well, like,
Right.
truly. I don't hold any ill will or harbor any, like, hatred or vitriol to him. I truly wish him nothing but the best. I wish I had woken up earlier and seen things for what they were, and I hold myself responsible for that and him responsible for his own actions, but I wish he could heal. That's what I want for him. But at that moment, I didn't care anymore about the drama. I didn't care about softening the blow for him. I didn't care about pretending that I wasn't miserable. Like, I just lost all sense of trying to preserve his sense of well-being or
You put yourself
happiness.
first.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And I just said, "Actually, I'm leaving you." And he's like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I can. And I'm going to do it." And he's like, "When?" And I'm like, "In about 3.5 hours." And he couldn't believe I was doing that. He tried to talk me into, like, waiting and creating a plan, and he'd help me. And then, well, how is he gonna pay the bills? And I'm like, "I actually have everything written out for you. There's exactly enough money in the bank for 2 months. You have 2 months to find a job and figure out your own shit and be an adult."
Mhm.
He's like, "Well, the dogs are gonna miss you," and I know. I'm like, "I know, that's actually the hardest thing for me today." He's like, "You're not gonna miss me?" And I'm like, "No, actually, I'm not, because you treat me like shit." And I called him out on it for the first time ever. And he went and self-harm. I don't know how truly self-harm he went, because 'cause I'm pretty sure most of it was ketchup, but he came out and saying he needed to go to the hospital and he was bleeding and these things, and I was like, "Well, I'll call 911 for you. I can call you an ambulance." Well, let's get in the truck. You can take me to the hospital. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go with you to the hospital. You can go to the hospital. I will make sure you get to the hospital. I can call your mom. I can call you an ambulance. I can call your friends, but I'm not taking you to the hospital. And he couldn't believe that I was saying no. He couldn't believe that I wasn't willing to take him and I wasn't going to pause things. And I literally said to him, I'm like, if I take you to the hospital, I'm not going to leave today. And I have to leave today. I
Right.
have to. Not leaving is not an option for me. And so, and that's why I think it was more put on self-harm than actual self-harm because he kind of like wiped his mouth and went about his morning, throwing a fit and yelling and breaking things. Um,
So you
my fr-
escaped. You
I
let him
escaped.
know,
Yeah.
and now you are across the border. Where did you go? Where's your family?
So my family's in Ontario, so I moved into my mom's basement because I knew I could land there softly and safely. Within 6 weeks, I'd found an apartment that was dog friendly, so I immediately went out and adopted Chihuahua, who is now sitting on my lap because he likes to throw fits when I'm doing, important things. He's my little senior baby, and he pulled back the parts of my soul that had broken when I had to walk away from my dogs. I knew my dogs were gonna be okay. My in-laws love them. I literally, like, left a note from my mother-in-law and being like, "I'm sorry to do this to you, but the girls need you, and, I know they're safe with you. I know you will love them and take care of them." And she has, and they've lived very fuel-filled, spoiled, treat-filled lives.
I'm so
Um
glad that you stated that. I know folks who are listening will be like, "What happened to the
Yes.
dogs?"
Yes. The dogs were I mean, they one of them has since passed on in her
Mhm.
age, but, um, they're very spoiled, very, very spoiled girls. Um,
One
yes.
thing that stands out to me is that you didn't just rebuild your life, you built a community. At what
Yes.
point did you realize community was something women were desperately missing?
For me, it kind of started coming about in January of 2021. Clubhouse, do you remember Clubhouse? It's kind of coming back apparently, but Clubhouse was the thing, the audio app where you could like talk to people and it was like almost like radio talk, like you could listen and you could talk and people were doing networking calls in there and I needed human connection because
Mhm.
I moved from Texas to Canada at the height of the second wave of COVID in Canada. So everything was on lockdown. I had an apartment that I couldn't leave.
Mm.
Couldn't go anywhere. I could see my mom, and that was about it. And I was feeling so incredibly isolated. I just needed to talk to people. And so I started getting active on Clubhouse and I started meeting people and connecting with people. I found a business coach that I started working with, and she challenged me to do 30 coffee chats in 30 days. And I was like, that's sweet. That's nice. I'm going to make it 90, which, if you know me even the smallest amount or have experienced me in any way, shape, or form, is not a surprising statement. That sounds nice. I bet that's hard. I'm gonna triple down on that one. So I challenged myself to do 90 coffee chats in 30 days, and I booked 87 and executed like I think 83 or 84 because a couple people no showed. So I got really, really close to that goal. But what it did is it put me in conversation with people,
Mhm.
and I was hearing stories, and I was being very just, this is who I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I have a couple of, clients from my agency because I closed the agency because I didn't know how to transport a business across the border. I just shut things down and took 2 people on a new contract to Canada with me. So I had a baseline, I could pay, my bills. I'm like, "This is what I'm doing. I don't know what's next for me. I'm looking to just meet people and have conversations and build a network again." And I had the most incredible conversations. I met other women who've gone through narcissistic abuse, which was the most freeing thing because dealing with that, you feel so isolated. You think you're the only person that's ever dealt with anything like this. They make it feel like you're the problem. So you
Mhm.
think that no one else has any idea of like what you're experiencing. You don't know how to communicate it. So to hear other women who'd escaped and had restarted their lives was like so liberating for me. We started like a little healing club where we were all kind of healing from bad
I
relationships
love
together.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I just started networking and meeting people and building community, and I actually started working inside of someone else's community and loved what was happening there, and worked with her for almost a year and a half, but we had a bit of a divergence on values and, like and mission. And that happens sometimes when you're a service provider that you love what someone's doing, but I didn't really feel comfortable talking about money, sex, and politics, and that's what she wanted to focus on.
Mm. Yeah, that's a
It's
tough those are tough,
It was a tough sell for me.
yeah.
Yeah. Sex maybe, sure, but well, actually money more than money would be easier than sex, but politics not with a 10-foot pole. Not for me.
Mhm.
I'm Canadian, I do not understand American politics. I just don't. It overwhelms me and it's scary
I'm
and
American, and I don't understand it.
yeah,
It's off the rails right now, so, yeah.
I lived through it for 10 years and it was just too much. And I just, for my own mental sanity, I decided that I needed to part ways. And I was looking for another opportunity to jump into side of someone's community and kind of rebuild what I had been doing for this other woman. And a friend said to me, she's like, you could spend the next year finding, working towards finding the perfect opportunity and finding the perfect community builder and being a part of their community and jumping into their mission. It's going to take you a year to find someone at the level that can pay you what you're worth. She's like, or you could spend a year building it for yourself.
Mm.
And then it's always yours and you don't have to worry about values differences or marketing or messaging or mission, and it will never change, and it's yours. It's your baby. And I went, "I don't want to." And then 2 days later, I went, "Fine. I guess I'll build it myself," right? I'm like, "Call me Thanos. I'll do it
Mhm.
myself."
Mhm.
Um and so I had that moment, and that was February of 2023, and I did a couple of market research calls with some people with around this idea of the Fempreneur Collective, and everyone was like, "Hell yes. Like, let's go. Let's do it." Because the mission of the Fempreneur Collective is to give women in business a place to practice the things they need to do to be more visible, to be more seen, to build collaborations, and to really build relationships. So I wanted to create a space where women who wanted to write guest articles and be published in magazines and be published on big websites could write their first article and submit something and do it scared and land somewhere gentle and soft that would, you know, give them a little bit of feedback, give them a little bit of editing advice, be supportive and make it safe and easy and, break the ice on these things. I wanted to give women a place where they could be a podcast guest for the first time, talk about their passions, talk about why they love what they do. So I launched a podcast. I wanted to give women a place to be an expert so they could stand on their own 2 feet and grab that microphone with authority. And so we created the Facebook group and we do, mini trainings and little things in there and people can talk about their business. I wanted a space where women didn't have to worry about what day of the week it was and if they could promote their offer that day or not. So we have a Facebook group that has no promo rules about it. I mean, other than don't be an asshole. That's the main
Right.
rule. Um, and I just wanted it to be a space where like the sky's the limit. If you have an idea, let's create it together. I'll help
I
you.
love that.
You can piggyback off of the community. Inside of that, last year I launched the Flourish Circles, which is the mastermind space, which is really about taking that relationship building and building togetherness into the next level of accountability and peer-to-peer support. And the results of that have been for the women who just finished. I just wrapped up my first circle today, actually. Um, the momentum and the shift, and one of the girls said today, she's like, "What the last 6 months have given me is a foundation for consistency that's easy." She's like, "I don't have to think about what to be consistent at. I know what to be consistent at. I know what moves the needle. I've spent 6 months figuring that out with you guys and activating that." And she's like, "I know that if something has to give, I know exactly what gives first." And I was
Where are
like,
these
"That's
where are these women located? Are they, just in Canada? Are they
US.
around the world?
US and Canada. Yeah. I've got the next circle starting to form and I think I have a lady from Germany joining and someone else is joining from Puerto Rico. So it's like international.
Good.
Um Making time zones fit is kind of fun sometimes, figuring out how to make everyone, accommodate everyone else, but it's a miraculous, magical, beautiful thing to see women truly supporting women and creating a space that is emotionally vulnerable and safe. It's you can like they've come and they've ranted, they've raved, we've celebrated, and to just, like, see the result of the power women have when we come together with truly the only goal of coming together. Just to
Yeah,
come together for the sake of coming together and to create a space where you can make miracles happen. And some of these women made miracles happen in their business, and I was very emotional earlier today. I'm getting emotional now thinking about it because that is my purpose.
I
And
love that.
it took me 2 years in Texas and another 4 years here to really kind of like, what is the point of all this? I knew I wanted to have an impact. I knew I wanted to do something bigger. I knew I wanted to create ripples, and I knew I probably don't wanna be Oprah. Like, I don't need to be on stage in front of millions of people. I don't need to be Brené Brown. I don't need to be Mel Robbins. And I don't wanna be them. I wanna be me. I wanna be JJ. I wanna be Jennifer Jayne. I wanna be someone who creates spaces that directly impacts the trajectory of someone's life, and
Yeah.
then they can go be Oprah. They
Yeah.
can go be Mel Robbins. They can go stand on stage in front of millions of people with the foundation of understanding who they are, what are they about, what are their values, how do they support their own communities, and what are they giving, but what also are they looking to receive, right? We're taught, especially as women, that we're supposed to give, 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 right? We're supposed to be generous givers and give and give and give. In order to be a generous giver, you have to be a generous receiver.
Yep. Oh,
Because
you got to say
otherwise,
that again. Hold on, because that's a point I think a lot of women miss.
hmm yep. To be a generous giver, you have to be a generous receiver. You have to. Because if we are not willing to receive with generosity, we are robbing the person on the other side of the opportunity to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've all had moments where we're trying to do something nice for someone and they're like, "Oh no, 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 it's fine. It's fine." And they're refusing our generosity. And we really truly want to make a difference in their life and support them and help them. And they're refusing to let us, but we turn around and do the same thing to our friends and our family and our girls and our support. Like we do it all the time. And we think that's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be grudgingly accept help. We're supposed to be grudgingly accept generosity. We need to be generous receivers.
Yes.
That is the
Absolutely.
foundation of being a truly generous giver.
Yeah. The Fempreneur Collective has grown into a significant network of women supporting one another. What
Yep.
have you learned about women from building that community?
Oh man, we're way more resilient than we ever give ourselves credit for. Even when we're giving ourselves the most credit possible. I've seen women go from wanting to burn it all down 1 week to, okay, let's just take it back to the studs. We're not going to burn it down. We're just going to do a renovation. And then a month later they're selling 5 or 6 VIP days. Like, what? You were gonna burn it down. You were gonna go back to, like, working in a corner store. You're gonna go back to your convenience store job because that's what you thought you were capable of. I've seen women stand up to their partners,
Hmm.
out of passion for what they're doing and stand up to the pressure to just go back to being a full-time mom or going back to whatever job they had before because the business isn't making it. You're not making enough
Hmm.
money. Standing up to that pressure and being like, "Nope, I know what I'm doing. I'm on a mission. I'm not giving in on this one. Sorry.
Right.
I'll give in on a million other things. This is mine. You can't have it." And holding their own and really owning that identity. I'm also seeing women understand that we are women in business, which
Hmm.
means we are two sides of the same coin. So we have to honor our humanity and our femininity and our womanhood and at the same time be in business. And those are not separate conversations. They are the same conversation. And so that was the other part of why I wanted to create the Fempreneur Collective website is to give people a place to talk about all of the parts of who they are as business owners, right? You can be a mom and you can be, the best networking person in the world. You can be a woman with a chronic illness and you can be the best marketing expert in the world. You can be someone in hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming and still be a woman who doesn't know how to tie her shoelaces on a Tuesday, right? Like we can be all of these things at the
And the
same time.
power of the word is and.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the powerful word
Yes.
and.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do women most commonly struggle with behind the scenes that nobody talks about?
I think a lot of it comes down to a lot of it is imposter syndrome, but it's imposter syndrome masquerading as I'm not smart enough or I don't actually know what I'm doing. It's not that no one's going to listen to me because we hit a point where we think no people are actually listening, right? I've seen some success, I've experienced some things, but it becomes this. Well, I've only been in business for 3 years. I've only been in business for 5 years. I've been in business for 16 years and I still say, "Oh, I don't actually know what I'm doing today.
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm doing." And we downplay our capacity. We downplay our ability to actually understand the game,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
The business is a game. We understand, we know, we are locked in, and we downplay our understanding of what we're about. And we diagnose ourselves as small
Yep.
when we are so much bigger and more fulfilled and have more capacity than we give ourselves credit for. And I think that shows up as inconsistency. It shows up as fear. So we're not putting ourselves out there. We're not pursuing visibility in ways that actually are meaningful and supportive of our business. We do visibility practices. We throw Instagram content out. We show up on threads. We might, go to a networking call, but then we don't follow through
Right.
on anything, right? That's part of visibility, is actually following things all the way through. One of the things I decided that 2026 was for me was the year of creating finishers. And I'm on a mission this year to create finishers, women who finish things fully and completely so that it can exist, so that it can make them money, so that they can learn from it. I've been just as guilty of this over, 16 years of entrepreneurship, of having really great ideas, buying the .com, writing a few things down and saying I was going to come back to it later,
Mhm.
or wanting to add something to a program or do a masterclass and be like, oh, this is really fun, I should do it on this day, putting it out in my calendar and then never actually marketing it. And then being sad nobody showed up to a thing I told nobody about. And then like crying tears because I did it to myself.
Yeah.
Right. I want to create a movement of finishers because we cannot learn from what we don't complete. My mantra inside of the Fempreneur Collective and Flourish Circles is done is data. And it's not because I'm a metrics girl. It's not because I'm into analytics or even just like, we have to finish things and be accountable. We can't learn. We can't make money. We can't grow. We can't evolve. We can't make things more beautiful if we don't have raw material to work with. And it
Mhm.
has to be put into the world to actually give us any information.
Right.
And so that is what I'm doing. That is the mission I'm on right now.
I
And it's
resonate with
beautiful.
that, especially, you and I have talked before when I was talking about building out Elevate Within and
Hmm.
building out this podcast and stating, like, hey, I went through my corporate burnout. I went through my grief and loss, losing my parents. I went through the spiraling and then coming to an age and a moment in my life where I just lost myself, where I was
Yeah.
asking myself, like, who am I?
Yeah.
And what I'm doing here and what we're doing together with the architecture of reinvention is providing a platform and a space where women can share their stories, women can share the messy middle, and then share, like, hey, this is how I reinvented myself. This
Hmm.
is how, these are the steps that I took as far as like therapy or whatever, wellness. This is what I did. And then be able to provide and build out this space
Yeah.
for women to share their story in a safe space, as well as have these health workers, coaches come in and be like, all right, here's the tools. This is something that I wish I had when I
Hmm.
was going through my burnout and my struggle. So
Yeah.
hearing your journey and how you came about with the Fempreneur Collective, it's similar. And I'm sure, like with a lot of women, it's giving them the autonomy to say, like, hey, if you can't find it and you need it, build it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then build your community.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
extremely important. So I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
I love what you do. I think it's absolutely amazing. Um, Question for you. What did you have to let go of in order to become the
Hmm.
woman that you are today?
What didn't I have to let go of might be the shorter answer. I had to shed so many things. I think one of the biggest things looking back, I like to pick a word for the year. Like usually it comes to me like November, December. 2024, I locked into purpose as my word. And I've spent the last 2 years using purpose as like the core of the work I'm doing on myself
Mhm.
and what I'm having to shed, because I recognized that I needed to untangle my value and my worth from productivity and how much I could produce and how many things I could check off of a to-do list. A little bit of childhood trauma around that one. But I had to intentionally start changing my language and start using purpose instead of productivity. I don't have to be productive today. I need to be purposeful today. And in that, I've shed the expectations of metrics. I've shed the expectations of enough, doing enough, being good enough, showing up enough, publishing enough content, doing enough AI, right? All of these enough things that we tell ourselves. Because if I have one purposeful conversation, I've met my goal for today
Yeah.
because I was in my purpose in that moment. If I have 30 minutes of purposeful, focused work and that's all I'm capable of, I was purposeful today. Everything else can get pushed till tomorrow. And I've built my business around leaving lots of white space for capacity. Chronic health issues kind of get factored into that.
Hmm.
But to be able to say, "You know what? I think my purpose today is actually to go take a 4-hour nap."
Yeah. And that is okay because a lot
It's
of women, we
okay.
do not allow ourselves to rest. I used to be one of them. I just stopped this year. I was one of them. Like, if I'm resting, then I'm not doing what I need to do. I feel
Yeah,
guilty about it
yeah,
to the point where it's like, you know what? I actually focus better. I have more clarity when I have rest, when I just
yeah,
take in and rest and just sit and be in the moment.
yeah. I booked a VIP day with a client, for next week, and I was like, "Okay, here's how this works. We're gonna do 3 hours in the morning, we're gonna take a 2-hour break, and then we're gonna do 3 hours in the afternoon." She's like, "What do we need a 2-hour break for?" I'm like, "Girl, I'm gonna nap. I don't know what you're gonna do with 2 hours, but I'm gonna eat some food, walk my dogs, and I'm gonna sleep for an hour so I can be at my highest level for you the second half of that afternoon. Because I know my mental capacity will need I need a little pause, a little turn it off and turn it back on." And I factor that into VIP days. I factor that into I leave white space for that. But at the end of the day, it's about for me, the shedding has been about it's been more the lessons, right? Like take the lesson, try it on, is this for me? Nope. Cool. On to the next, right? And just letting myself explore life. There's this fun little cliche that's floating around the internet right now. It's like, well, it's just your first time alive. It's your first time living. And you're damn skippy it is. I don't know what the heck I'm doing.
It's not the first time it's every day since you're born, you're living.
Yeah. Every day is a new day. Every day I have no idea what my capacity is, what choices lie ahead of me, what opportunities lie ahead of me, what challenges lie ahead of me. All I can commit to is being the best version of me as that I can and making the best choice in that moment. My partner, his favorite mantra is try not to be an asshole. You do not have to succeed, but you do have to try. And
Mhm.
that's how he lives his life. And it's very simple. I love it. It's very simple. But
Yeah.
it's a great it's a basic standard. Try not to be an asshole. And if you don't succeed, that's okay. There might be consequences for it. You deal with that. But if in the trying to not be an asshole, you don't hurt somebody, you don't ruin somebody else's day, you succeed at something you're trying to accomplish, maybe you make a little bit of a difference for someone else. That's purpose, that's beauty.
Yeah.
It's kind of it goes back to the Hippocratic oath, do no harm a little bit. And I think we could all use with a little more do no harm in our philosophies and how we live life.
I'll add to that, don't be an asshole to yourself,
Yeah. Yep.
you know, because we can be assholes to ourselves. We can be
Oh,
our worst
100%.
critics. We can be very, very abusive. When
Very
you
much
think
so.
about the woman listening right now, the one rebuilding after a setback, health challenges, divorce, or a major life transition, what would you want her to know?
You are so much more than you've ever thought you were capable of. So much more. Whatever messy middle, right? And I love this conversation, Sandy, because that's what you're doing is you're normalizing the messy middle, right?
Mhm.
We all go through the muck in life. There's always seasons of grossness. If we can find that teeny tiny little tiniest shimmer of light of what's ahead of us and lock onto that, that will guide you through and carry you through, right? When I finally made the decision, I'll go back to Texas for just a second.
Mhm.
It was August of 2020. I knew that I wanted to leave, but I hadn't told anyone out loud yet that I wanted to leave. It was my birthday. I turned 37, and all I wanted was a hug. And he
Mhm.
refused to give me a hug. So I went into my room and our bedroom and I closed the door and I locked it and I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I'm coming home." And she said, "Oh, thank God, when?" Because she'd been waiting for that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, "Jennifer," she's like, "I'm so happy." She's like, "You're gonna be," she's like, "You yes, like, let's get you home." And I knew on the other side of getting to the border was my mom and a hug, a hug that was gonna hold me and last and be a soft place. I hadn't had one of those in a very long time. And that was my little North Star that I held on to. And then beyond that, I knew I just had to make it to that moment, right? Like, if you can pick a moment in the future where you say, I just have to make it to this moment, and then everything is upwards from there,
Wow.
you can survive so much shit, so much crap, so much ugliness that can be thrown at you. If you know, I just have to make it to this day, and then everything's better. And you decide from that moment, that day, that precise second, this is the moment everything gets better, and then you refuse nothing less. You refuse nothing less than everything getting better. That is what carried me through those last, like, 5 months of just trying to survive in 4 months, I guess, of trying to survive in Texas. Because making a decision and then actually being able to execute it and waiting 4 months for me, that was hell. That was hell. But it was necessary. I'm a make a decision and do it tomorrow kinda girly. So that was very hard, but I held on to that moment of I just have to get to the border, I just have to get to my mom, and then everything is gonna be okay. So find that moment where you know from that point forward, everything is going to be okay. Lock into it. Do what you have to do to keep yourself safe, to keep yourself centered and grounded and as regulated as possible and honor your capacity. And then accept nothing less than the highest, the best, and the most beautiful things from yourself from that point forward.
I love that. That was needed and so beautifully put. Tell folks where they can find you and how they can sign up for the Fempreneur.
Yeah. So I'm all over the internet. Look for the Jennifer Jayne. Jane is spelled with a Y, Jayne. I hang out mostly on Threads and Instagram these days, so you can hang out with me there. And then you can find the Fempreneur Collective at fempreneurcollective.com. Or join us on Facebook. I also did just launch a school because that sounded like fun. The SKOOL school. And we're on there. We're called She Owns the Feed, and it's all about just having a place to be consistent with your content execution and your marketing. It's kind of the background of where I came from with all of this, with social media marketing and organic content marketing. So I wanted to put a place for people to ask me questions and get support and answers. So we meet twice a month to just execute, and it's co-working with a little bit of love and sass. And getting things done to actually do the things you need to do to make your business make you money.
Awesome. And I'll make sure I have all of that in the show notes. Thank you
Amazing.
so much, Jennifer, for
Thank you,
sharing
Sandy.
your story, your wisdom, your courage. I think that will definitely resonate with so many women. I know it resonated with me. And
Amazing.
I do truly appreciate you being part of the Architect of Reinvention series with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to learn more about Jennifer's work or connect with her directly, you'll find all of her information and the links in the show notes. Until next time, keep elevating personally, professionally, and from within. But before I go, if no one told you that they loved you today, I love you. So Jennifer, I love you.
I love you, Sandy.
Take care. If this conversation resonated with you, you're not alone. That's exactly why this space exists. Elevate Within is for the high-achieving women in the messy middle, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. The architecture of reinvention is an invitation to pause, to reflect, to heal, and to begin the process of unbecoming everything you were told you had to be so you could become who you were always meant to be. Be sure to join us each Friday for our Architecture of Reinvention Roundtable discussions, where we continue these conversations and explore the deeper lessons, insights, tools, and reflections that emerge from each story. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. For Apple Podcast listeners, I would be grateful if you leave a rating or review. It helps reach more women who may need this conversation right now. And if you'd like to go deeper, join us on Substack at Elevate Within. There, you'll find weekly essays and honest conversations about burnout, grief, reinvention, resilience, healing, and the messy middle. Free subscribers receive full access to all public content, while paid subscribers receive bonus essays, early access to upcoming series, behind-the-scenes recording, and opportunities to engage directly with the community. If you know of a woman who needs to hear this conversation today, please share it with her. You can find me on LinkedIn under Sandra Davis, on Substack at Elevate Within, and if you're in need of fractional COO work or would like to book a discovery call on how I can help, you can reach out to me at elevateopsadvisory.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes. Until next time, keep elevating personally, professionally, and from within.